Hi, I'm Pastor Andre Winters, pastor of the Corner Church. Thank you so much for taking a moment of your day to watch this message. I hope you truly hear God speak to your heart, so please do enjoy.
Well, you guys are go ahead and welcome to take a seat. And kids can also be dismissed at this time in the service. And so Martin, our children's pastor, is right back there in the corner. And so kids in our elementary age group, you're welcome to go ahead and go with him and have a great time. And so parents, make sure you hold on to your kids' name tag, because that's how you get to kind of reclaim them after the service. You can't leave them here with us. You got to take them home. And so make sure you hold on to that card right there, the info card. But yes, so welcome again to the Corner Church, our second preview service as a brand new church here in Moncks Corner. I've been looking forward to today. You see, this has been just an exciting summer because my wife and I, just last month, we celebrated 4 years of marriage. And now you're looking at me and you're like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe you're even married. But yes, that beautiful woman who was right here playing the piano, the keys, her name is Erin, and that is my wife. We're married for 4 years. And we have a little boy named Mason. He's only 10 months old, actually 10 months today too. And so we made sure that this morning we kind of took those pictures, maybe you see some younger parents that do it. They put the little like 10 month, the little like month, like the timeline stickers on their stomach, and they take these pictures. And we of course had to do that this morning. So I'm sure she's already probably posted them on Facebook. But yeah, that's just our family in a nutshell. And something just kind of a tradition that Erin and I have kind of just established for us. That's maybe a little bit different than you guys. So with our anniversary last month for 4 years, we've kind of created this tradition where we no longer really get each other presents. And I'm kind of grateful for that because I'm someone who loves to save money. And so I'm more like, Erin, don't get me anything. I'd rather us just save money than you go out and you buy me something I don't really need. And even me, I try to find like the most inexpensive kind of, gift I can for Erin, but still kind of, loving her as much as I can. But usually, I'm pretty sure, we usually go out and we do some adventures together to celebrate our anniversary. But I've just noticed that probably we've created this tradition because I am super bad at getting gifts for my wife. I mean, really bad. She's amazing at getting gifts for me, but I am terrible. Is anyone else there with me? Am I the only one in the room who's bad at getting gifts for their spouse? But I remember the very first gift I got my wife. It was years ago. We started dating when we were in high school. I was 15 and Erin was 16, and that was about 8-9 years ago. And I remember we started dating, and it actually came to this point where we'd been dating for only a few weeks, and we actually had to kind of part ways. You see, for about 5 weeks, we didn't get to talk or see each other because I actually had to go to Arizona on a missions trip. I went out there to help remodel homes for missionaries who were just on the reservation. So I went there for a couple weeks. And then Erin, the day before I got home, the day before I got back home from Arizona, Erin left for Africa to go to Zambia. And she got to go and love on kids and orphanages there for several weeks. And it was amazing what she got to do. But for 5 whole weeks, we didn't get to see each other. For 5 whole weeks, we could not talk. And of course, at that time, that young love going on, 5 weeks seems like forever. And so it was just the hardest time for us, but we made it. I remember as I was heading out to Arizona, I was thinking, man, I need to make sure that I get Erin a gift. This is the very first gift that I would ever get to give her. I want it to be something that wows her, I want it to be something that kind of just steals really the whole complete heart, for her to really just love me, just for her to kind of be like, oh, Andre, I love you so much, just to kind of, have this huge amount of affection, just to kind of reignite things as we come back together after 5 weeks. I really wanted to get her a special gift because, honestly, between the two of us, I'm the one who was dating up. I mean, even today, I'm the one who married up. She's the one who settled for me. Maybe you've heard that like in every relationship. There's somebody who settles and there's somebody who goes up, for sure. It's pretty rare you see people who are like of the same level who get together. And it's definitely obvious when they're like totally at opposite sides. You just kind of see those relationships. You're like, how is that even possible? Like, that doesn't make sense. But for us, we're somebody, I definitely married up, and I'm grateful for her settling for me. And I think even in relationships like that, in dating or marriage relationships, it's healthy to have, kind of that person settled for me mentality. So if you're here with the person you love, really quickly, just say, hey, thank you for settling for me. Say it next to him real quick. Thank you for settling for me. Yes, I love you too, babe. But anyway, and so she settled for me, so I knew I had to get her a special gift that would wow her. And so I heard that I had never really had a girlfriend who was that serious before, and so this is my first kind of major gift. And I had heard that girls, they love jewelry, right? You couldn't go wrong with jewelry, right? Ladies, right? Jewelry, is that like the way to go? Yeah, so I thought that, like, okay, I'm gonna get Aaron a necklace. And so I was in Arizona, and so I was going around to all these markets. I wanted to get something that you couldn't get back, where we lived. I wanted something so totally unique to that part of our country. And so I was going around to all these local markets on the reservations, and it was just beautiful jewelry that I was seeing that was handcrafted by just the Navajo tribe that lived there. And it was amazing just to see all these things. And I came across this necklace, and I'm like, this is it. She's got to love this necklace. This is the one, right? It was beautiful. It was a silver necklace, and on one side it had this bright turquoise stone. It just captured your attention right away. And if you flipped it right over, you saw this beautiful red stone on the other side that was just so bright. It was a beautiful necklace. I loved it. So I remember I picked it up, and like, this is the one. And I remember I paid like $80 for it. And so when I was 15, that was like everything I had. So that was like a huge deal. And so I mean, even today, it's kind of a big deal for me. But I remember I bought this necklace, and I was like, yes, I can't wait to give it to Erin. And so I head back home, and I waited a couple weeks until she got home from Africa. And the very day that she got home, I headed over to her house, and I remember I was so eager for the moment to come where I could give her this necklace, because I wanted it to be like this whoosh, kind of like if you were to like put gasoline on a bonfire, just this whoosh of love. I wanted to see that happen. As she kind of opened the box, and so first we were talking. I remember we were sitting in her living room. And we were talking, we were sharing stories, and it was so cool to see the pictures that she had taken of her time in Africa. It was beautiful what she had to do with all those kids. It was just wonderful. And then the moment came. The moment came finally for me to give her this necklace. I was so excited. And she actually mentioned that she had gotten me a gift, and she insisted that I open it first. I said, okay. And so it was this, hand, carved a wooden giraffe, and it was beautiful. I loved it, and I still have it today. I love it. It's amazing. It was an amazing gift, but I was so excited to kind of give hers, I was thinking like, okay, you give me yours first, and we'll save the best for last, kind of idea, And so here's your necklace, and there's this little white box with this pretty little bow on top, and I remember handing it to her, right? And I was just staring at her face the entire time. I wanted to capture just the fullness of her expression when she looked and she saw the necklace. And I remember she untied the bow and she pulled off the lid, and at first she kind of had this intrigued face, right? Just kind of like, oh, I wonder what this could be, kind of like excited, like I can't wait, and she was just looking at it like, oh, what could this be? And I remember I was going for like oh wow, maybe some tears of joy would have been cool to see. That would have been awesome, that kind of reaction. I was waiting to just capture, I wanted to see just, oh my word, Andre, you're amazing. That's what I was going for, right? So she takes the ribbon off and she opens the top, and her face goes from like this to this, like this. And I was like, that's not the face I wanted. I mean, that's like, like a 2-year-old eating Brussels sprouts for the first time. They're like, what is this stuff right here? That's her face. She was like not interested at all in it. She didn't like it. I was like, oh my goodness, she hates the necklace. I gotta save this. And so I kind of turned into the sham wow guy. I'm like, wait, Aaron, that's not all. There's actually more to this necklace. There's actually something pretty special and amazing about this necklace. There's actually a really great functional purpose to it, because I'm all about that. Like, I want to get, if Aaron gets me a gift, I want it to be like something for great use that has a great functional purpose. So I'm like, wait, there's more. There's actually a great function to it. You see, on one side it has this blue stone. On the other side, there's this red side. And so what you can do is when you wear the necklace, right? When you wear the necklace, you can just leave it on the blue stone when you're in a great mood and you want people to be around you and to talk to you. But if you're ever in a bad mood, you want people to just not talk to you, just turn it over to the red side. Isn't that great? Like, don't you just love it now? And I'm pretty sure after that moment she thought it was even more stupider than she had before. And then actually shortly after, she broke up with me. So yeah, not at all what I was expecting, right? I was expecting this whoosh, just this like whoosh of love, this explosion, this exciting moment, but really it was this whoosh, and it destroyed our relationship. I don't know what happened, what went wrong, but don't you just hate it sometimes how you try so hard towards something and it doesn't work out the way you were hoping? Don't you hate it sometimes how you kind of put your effort into something? You're so confident, you're so hopeful that it's going to work out, but it doesn't. I was so sure that Erin would love this necklace, but she hated it. She actually, thankfully, she later on started dating me. I stole her heart back, and she, we got married, and that's just the rest of our story. And I remember she told me she actually broke the necklace that day, right? She didn't throw it away and just tell me she lost it. She actually broke it so that she hated it that much. I guess I was terrible at getting jewelry. I let other people pick it out for me, but I was so shocked, so surprised that she hated that gift. I was so sure that it would work out. It kind of stinks how that actually happens a lot. That kind of moment, that kind of experience. That we're actually surrounded by a lot of those things. Where we put all of our effort, we're so confident it's going to work out, but it doesn't. That happens a lot in relationships, whether it's a friendship or a dating relationship or even a marriage relationship, where we kind of put our all into it. We put our best foot forward, and we put ourselves out there. We make ourselves vulnerable, but we sometimes end up getting hurt. And that wasn't something that we were hoping to happen, but it did. Sometimes those things are out of our control, but that's something we put all of our effort into, and it didn't turn out. That happens a lot with sometimes when people go to college. They go to college with one focus, like, oh yes, I'm going to go to school for business, and then changes to art, and then changes to education, and then goes to music, and then jumps all around. People go to college and they change their major like 12 times. They can't make up their mind, but they take a class and they're like, this isn't what I wanted, so they end up changing their mind and going to something different. It happens a lot when people start new jobs. They kind of go through the interview process and they score the new job, and maybe it's an increase in pay. They're like, yes, I'm so excited. I'm excited for the bright future ahead. But then you start to get to know your supervisor, you start to get to know your boss and your coworkers, and you start to have some friction. You're like, this is not at all what I was expecting. And you're kind of, you kind of go through the process again of quitting and getting a whole new job. But we kind of experience that a lot. We even especially experience that when we buy things. We even have that feeling of regret so much when we kind of wish we wouldn't had done that, when the outcome wasn't what we expected, so we kind of regret that we had made that purchase. That happens so much that we actually label that feeling to buyer's remorse. People that go out, they see how beautiful the car is. Oh, look at the rims on this car. Look at the paint. Oh, it's beautiful. Look at the interior. Look at the sound system and the navigation, the touchscreen this, and look at that. Look at the lights. Look at the paint coat. I love it. Look how cool I look driving down the road. But man, I hate these payments. These payments are making me broke. And so people have this buyer remorse even when they just go through different things like that. And so it's crazy. We're surrounded by those types of experiences where we put our all into something and it doesn't work out like we were hoping. And this morning I want to talk about kind of a question. It's kind of a serious question, I think, and maybe some of us, we don't consider it too often. And no matter how old you are, whether you're in high school or you're tired, no matter what age you are, I think sometimes we don't think about this, or maybe we think about it a lot, but I really want us to talk about it. But how do we know in advance? How do we know ahead of time that we're not putting all of our personal resources, our time, our money, all these things are valuable to us? How do we know that we're not putting something into a bad egg? How do we know we're not putting ourselves into something, maybe it's a relationship or whatever it could be, that's not going to work out? How do we know in advance that we're not wasting our life away? Because the reality is that our days are numbered. How do we know that we're kind of making the most of every single day? And we're making it on purpose. So this morning I want to talk about this pretty special guy in the Bible. We don't know his name. He is a very short story in the Bible, but it's powerful. And his story is about him trying so hard to do one thing because he thought it was the answer, but it wasn't. And then he has this very special moment with Jesus where his life is completely changed and made new. So we're going to talk about this guy's story. It's in John chapter 5. And I really encourage you, if you have a Bible there next to you, to get it out. Maybe you have a Bible app on your smartphone. But this is a very special story. Or maybe you brought a Bible with you. I really encourage you to get it out. John is in the New Testament portion of the Bible. So I kind of think about it like this. If you were to stare at the pages of your Bible and kind of break it up into thirds, it would be that final third portion of the Bible would be the New Testament. And the New Testament goes Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. If you fall into Acts or Romans, you've gone a little too far. But I really encourage you to get it out because it's a very special story. And how cool would it be if we're all just kind of reading it together? Not just necessarily looking at a screen, but kind of have the Word of God right here in our hand. That'd be pretty special. And so I encourage you, if you're able to get it out. So John chapter 5, it's only a few verses is this man's story. But we're going to start reading in verse number 2. Like I also mentioned, it'll be here on the screen. But let's read it and let's talk about it and let God speak to us about it. So starting in verse 2. Now there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. Wow. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool. When the water is stirred, while I'm trying to get in, someone else goes in ahead of me." Wow, let's pause there just for a moment and talk about what's happening. You see, Jesus is in the city of Jerusalem, which is kind of like the capital of their country. And he goes into the part of their city called the Pool of Bethesda. And maybe you've never heard of this place, and that's all right. It doesn't really pop up too many times throughout the Bible. But he goes to this place, and what's actually kind of unique about this part of the city, and because there's actually a legend about the pool. And it may sound a little crazy to us, but what they actually believed is that when the waters of the pool would begin to stir, people believed, their culture believed at that time, that the angels were kind of putting their hands in and stirring the water. And that if you had a disability, you had a physical infirmity, or you had any sort of illness, that if you were to actually go into the pool, then you would be healed. They believed that. It was a huge part of their culture. That sounds crazy to us now, thousands of years later with modern medicine, but that's what they believed. They believed that if you went into this pool, maybe it was they often believed that if you were the very first person in, then you'd be instantly healed. Maybe you had to go in a couple times depending on your situation, but they pretty much believed that if you went into the pool while the waters were being stirred, then you'd be healed. And so Jesus walks into this place, this pool of Bethesda, and just kind of use your imagination. Maybe close your eyes for a moment, but just kind of picture this moment. He walks in, it's this massive building, these beautiful pillars kind of surrounding this pool, kind of in a courtyard of an office building or something like that. This courtyard that's kind of in the beginning. There's no ceiling or anything like that. It's open into the sky, and there's this pool in the center. And it's surrounded by all of these people who have disabilities. Some of them have different physical limitations, like being paralyzed, being blind, or other things like that. Some of them have different illnesses and diseases, and so they're there with this hope of being healed, of going into the pool to be healed. And so kind of what has kind of happened here in this part of the city is that honestly no one has ever been healed. No one has gone into the water and been healed, but that's just kind of a myth that they believe in their culture. But honestly, if you had no other hope, right? If you couldn't really dial 911, or if you couldn't go to the doctor, if you had no other hope, and that was your only option, you try it out. And so there are dozens and dozens and dozens of people there in this part of the city, and honestly, it had become the home of the misfits. It had become the place to where regular people don't go. It's only for people who have problems. It's only for people who aren't really accepted everywhere else. Because in that culture at the time, if people had different illnesses that could not be cured, or if they had different physical limitations, whatever it could be, people just didn't understand those things. And so what happened is they'd actually be shunned. They'd walk into the market or to grocery stores or to Walmart or anything like that, what they had at their time, or Chick-fil-A. And they'd go, and they'd actually be shunned. They'd pushed aside. And so this is pretty much the only place with people of this lifestyle, people in these circumstances could be and not be bothered. So there's dozens and dozens of people here, all waiting for the waters of the pool to be stirred, for them to go in. And then Jesus walks into the middle. That's something I love about Jesus, is because he doesn't really care what people think about him. He doesn't care what people say. Because honestly, for someone who didn't have anything necessarily wrong with their body, they shouldn't be in that place. But Jesus didn't care about any of that. He wanted to go and be uncomfortable and love on people who were very different than him, people who were not accepted or welcomed anywhere else. And I love that about Jesus. He is so cool in that way. So Jesus walks into this space, this courtyard with this pool, and he begins talking to this man who'd been there for 38 years. Wow, 38 years. That's 15 years older than me. Just to give you an idea, I'm almost 23 years old. He's older than 38. And so, but for the last 38 years of his life, he's been laying there. And his only hope is to get into the pool. And Jesus starts talking to him. And we don't know his name. We don't know where he's from. We don't know his backstory, anything like that. We just know that he's been laying there for 38 years on this mat, hoping someday to get into the pool and have a better life. So Jesus comes in, and Jesus kind of asks him this question. Sometimes we don't really understand what Jesus does sometimes. If you ever read in Matthew, Mark, or Luke, or John, the Gospels, the books of the Bible that tell us about the life of Jesus, sometimes we really don't. He does some odd things. We don't really get it, but he asks the guy, do you want to get well? I mean, that's a silly question to me. That's like standing in line at the gas station and somebody in front of you is buying lottery tickets, and you kind of tap them on the shoulder like, hey, do you want to win the $1 million? Like, do you want to win all that money? And like, of course they would. Of course they would. What do you expect them to turn around and say, nah, I love losing all my money. No, I love watching other people win it. It's great. It's wonderful, actually. I love losing all this money to these pieces of paper. I love it. It's awesome. No, that's crazy. Of course they want to. Just in this situation, of course he wants to get better. That's why he's been there for 38 years. But Jesus doesn't make mistakes. He asks him this question, do you want to get better? And he doesn't ask it in a being smart kind of way. He doesn't ask it to be a comedian, to be funny. He asks it because he wants to see just the condition of this man's heart and soul. Because the man, when he responds, just like what we read, he doesn't say yes or no. He says, well, if other people would just let me in, if somebody would just come and give me a hand, then I could get into the pool. Then I could get in and I would finally be healed. I'd be out of this place. If somebody could just help me out. I've been here for 38 years. Can somebody just give me a break? He hears that from the man. And honestly, you know what a good person would have done in that moment? A good person would have helped the guy up. Would have probably picked him up. After 38 years of laying there on the mat, he would have had some severe, muscle atrophy, so he would have been a very small, scrawny person, and so it would have been very easy to pick him up. I'm not all that strong, but I probably could have picked him up, and I'm sure a lot of us, a good person could definitely go into that moment and pick that guy up and all right, I'll help you out, I'll bring you into the pool. That's what a good person would have done, but Jesus, just something totally different. Because he doesn't necessarily always settle for good. He always goes for what's best. And I want us to read what happens next in the story because it's amazing. It's amazing. Then Jesus said to him, get up, pick up your mat and walk. At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and he walked. The very thing that this man had been laying on for 38 years, the very thing that he'd been laying on for probably a long time in his entire life. He'd probably been laying there so many nights restless, wondering, I wonder if I'll ever get out of this. I wonder if I'll finally ever kind of have a new life, one where I'm not limited like this. He gets there in that moment, Jesus heals him, and he gets to roll up that mat. I can only imagine what he's just experiencing, just the joy that's overwhelming his entire body. He rolls up that mat and he kind of puts it over his shoulder and he walks out. He had probably been in that courtyard for the entire 38 years. This is a very long time he's been there. So he finally gets to walk out, and I could just imagine the moment when he walks out and he kind of sees the sun in such a real, fresh way. No longer through the courtyard open sky above him, but really out in just this open, broad sky where there's no trees or buildings kind of inhibiting his view. He gets to see just the beautiful horizon. And he gets to walk out there carrying his mat. You see, this man in this moment, Jesus doesn't decide to help him into the pool because that's kind of what he'd been expecting to save him. That was his answer. For 38 years, this man had believed, all of his trust, all of his hope. He was so sure that if he put all of his effort into this one thing, then finally it would work out for him, but it never did. It had all of his hope. All of his trust was in that. And he was even asking Jesus, could you just help me into the pool? Would you just help, if no one else is, Jesus, would you just help me into the pool? So many times I think that in our life, we expect God to kind of help us along with what we want to do, but he kind of doesn't, so we kind of get angry at him. But he's trying to sometimes tell us that, man, that's the wrong thing. And so this man, he says, would you help me get into the pool? But Jesus says, listen, I'm not here to help you into the pool. I'm here to give you something that the pool can't give you. I'm here to give you something that no one in your life can give you. Because right now I understand what you're feeling. Right now you're blaming others. You're mad at the world. Because life is not turning out how you expected. You've been sitting there for 38 years and you thought this would work out, but it's not. And so you're mad at life. You're about to just fold and kind of call quits on the whole thing. Jesus understands what's happening in his heart, so he doesn't help him in the pool. Because it maybe made the guy happy for a moment. But he says he extends his hand and he heals the man in a very special, incredible moment like that. You see, I think for a lot of us, we've heard these promises. Promises have been made to us. If you're young, you've probably heard these promises that if you want something hard enough, you'll get it. That if you just want with all of your will, that one day you'll have it. You maybe heard promises that, if you just go to college, if you do well in school and you kind of nail down a great paying job, then you'll be successful. You maybe have heard that. Or maybe you've heard that if you kind of just live out just kind of what makes you happy, whatever that is, if it's doing these certain drugs, or if it's sleeping around, or if it's doing all these parties and excessively drinking, whatever it could be. God is saying, listen, all these unhealthy things, that's not right. But people say, hey, if you just live out your pleasures, you go through all that stuff, just try to be happy. And just try to do what you want. That's what's been promised to us, and we've been promised that, man, life will be so much meaningful if we just live out those things. But some of us are experiencing that it's not measuring up. We've been promised sometimes if we just kind of make our body look a little more beautiful, that people would want us. If we did our hair different, or if we kind of lost some weight, then maybe people would love us back. We've been promised that if we just nail down a boyfriend or get a girlfriend and get married, then life would be so much better. If we just have a family, right? We settle down, then life would be great. There'll be no problems. We've heard that. We've heard that if we just work hard and we get that dream job, or we get that dream house, right? We get that dream boat, right? Or we get that dream car. If we just save up for retirement, we look forward to that. We just kind of put so much away and just have a comfortable retirement life. If we just kind of get there, then we'll be successful. Then we'll have made it. Then life will be great. We've heard those promises. But you're either experiencing right now that they're not true, that they're not measuring up to what you had expected, or you're chasing after those what ifs right now, those what if I just had, a nicer job, or if I just had a greater house, or if I just had all these things. Like the man, if someone just helped me out, if someone just helped me in the pool. We have all those ifs too. All these things that we really want to just see happen in our life, because life would be so much better if those things just happened to us. And what I want us to really grab hold of this morning is that Jesus so badly wants to help us. But it's not necessarily how we would expect. See, he wants to help us. But it's not necessarily to chase after all those things we've been promised, or the things we've been told. And he especially wants to help with us with maybe if we're on the other side and we're experiencing that regret. Man, I wish I wouldn't have done all those parties, or man, I wish I wouldn't have had smoked all those drugs, or I wish I wouldn't have slept around, or I wish I would have, spent more time with my family, or I wish I would have, cared for my spouse, or I wish I would have put more time into my kids, or I wish I would have, whatever it could be. Whether if you're in a place right now of regret, or if you're maybe even in a place of going through all those things, I want to encourage you this morning. Talk to Jesus about the help that he is so willing and excited and wants so badly to offer you. Because it'll be more fulfilling than you can imagine. I promise you that. So if you're in a place of life right now where you're chasing after the next if I could only get this, then life would be so much easier. Try out Jesus. See, I encourage you that he's not going to disappoint. Because he's going to help you in a way that is going to be so much better than what you think will actually come out of what you're trying to pursue. And that's truth. This man right here in this story experiences that. I bet when he walked out of that pool of Bethesda, he was like, man, I've been silly laying there for 38 years thinking that water could heal me. He's like, but finally, I had that moment where Jesus met me in a special way, and he changed my life. See, I encourage you this morning, have a special moment where you hear from God, because he's so close and he cares about you. And maybe you're here this morning and maybe you love how you're living life and you don't want anybody to tell you what to do. I get it. I get it. You don't want anybody to tell you how to live your life. I understand. You maybe even think that going to church, or following Jesus, that's just going to hold you back. That's going to restrict you. I understand. But let me tell you a story. It's a story that I heard. It's these two stories. It's the story of these two boys who grew up their entire life in Florida. And it's a very, very old story. I can't remember necessarily the date of when all this kind of happened, but I heard this from a friend who's also a pastor. See, these two boys, they grew up out in the country in Florida, and one was only 8, 9 years old, and his older brother was 12 to 13, and they grew up out in the country, right? And so they, roughing it. This was pre-video game time, so they weren't, in the house, playing games or watching TV. They're out playing with sticks and probably beating each other with them, because that's what boys do. That's what me and my brothers did. But they're outside all the time playing, and I remember there's this moment where, it's kind of in the regular routine of their day, where mom's making dinner, she's making supper, and And they say, hey, Mom, we're going outside. We're going to go outside. We're going to play in the woods. We're going to do some exploring. And she's like, all right, you just make sure you're back in time for dinner. Okay, Mom, you got it. And so they head out into the woods and they do their exploring, and they know to be back in time for dinner. And so they come across, as they're exploring out in the woods, that there's this patch of sand they'd never seen before. They had been out behind their house dozens and dozens and dozens of times, but they come across this patch of sand they'd never seen, and the 8-year-old brother, he begins to walk towards it, and he actually walks over across over the top of it, and he actually begins to sink. He had no idea that what he had just stepped into was quicksand. And so before he even knew it, in a split second, he was up to his ankles, and he was to his knees, and it started coming up his thighs, and he was sinking down, and his brother was off a little ways, begins yelling for his brother for help. He's crying out to him, and so his brother runs over, and his brother is freaking out, trying to, how do I save him? My younger brother, how do I save him? And so he's getting on his hands and knees, he's using sticks, he's trying to pull him out, and his brother begins to sink even further. And all of a sudden it's up to his waist, and then it's halfway up his stomach. He's continually laying down. They're screaming for help. They're screaming for Mom and Dad to come save them, but no one's coming, and so they're screaming out for help, and there in that moment they lock eyes, and they're both terrified of what could happen. And he continues to seek, and it actually gets up to his shoulders, and they're yelling for help. And around that same time, dinner time had long passed, and their parents, their mom and dad, was starting to get worried. So they ran out into the backyard, and they walked several yards into the woods. They heard their kids, their boys, yelling out for help, and so they ran out to the woods, and they saw their younger son, the 8-year-old, who was still, the sand was still up to his shoulders, and Dad, he jumps down there on his knees, and he tries to help him, and then Mom runs back to the house and calls for help. And so he's fighting, and Dad has this heroic moment where he actually pulls his son up out of the sand. It's an amazing, miraculous moment where he pulls his boy up out of the sand. He's dusting him off, and his son, his 8-year-old, is crying his eyes out. And he's saying, where's your brother? Where is he at? Did you guys split off? Where's your brother? And he's crying. And he begins to explain that he tried everything he could to save him. And when the sticks weren't working, when all these things that he was trying to do weren't working, then he actually put himself into the quicksand. And as the sand was pulling him down, he actually tried to push his brother up. And he said just before Mom and Dad came to save him, he could feel that he was standing on his brother's shoulders. His brother had given his life for him so he could live. You see, I want you to realize that Jesus isn't about trying to hold you down, but he wants to lift you up. You see, he's so much like the older brother in that story, and he's actually stepped into our world, and God himself has kind of gotten off the throne, and he's come into our world, and he's lived a life as a person. He's gotten into the quicksand with us, and as our eyes are beginning to go down beneath the sand, he jumped in, he pulled us up, and he gave his very life for us. So I want you to know this morning, Jesus is not about holding you back. The greatest life possible for you to ever live is with him. Realize that he cares about your struggles. Realize that he cares about you. He cares about the things that are wrestling inside of you that are hard for you to understand about the Bible or things about life. He understands those things, and he's willing to work with you about them, but he wants to help. And so I don't know where you are with God. I don't know if this has been your first time back at church in a long time. I don't know what your story is or the experiences you've had, but I know here in this moment that Jesus wants to help you. And it's not to help you with all the ifs that you're trying to chase after. It's something totally brand new. Bring a joy and a peace into your heart and your soul that's so real. Not like Christmas morning where you open the presents and then kind of the excitement fades. No, it's a joy and a peace that lasts. Know that he's wanting to bring a purpose to your heart and to your life. No matter how old, how old or young you are, no matter what your age is, he's wanting to do something with you and inside of you. He's wanting to bring life back to who you are, a fullness, a wholeness of your very being. Maybe it's something that you've been trying to substitute with other things that haven't been working. So I encourage you here in this moment, as Jesus is offering you his help, take it. If it's regret for things in the past, If it's relationships that need to be mended or forgiveness that needs to be there or whatever it could be, ask Jesus to help. If it's, decisions coming up in the future or you're trying to figure out life right now, let Jesus help because he wants to. And the outcome of being in a relationship with him is so much better than the outcome that we can try to work for ourselves. Would you close your eyes just for a moment? I want to encourage you. If you feel like you've been kind of going through life without Jesus, but you're kind of doing it on your own, and you want him, you want his help, would you just right now take the moment and tell him you want his help? Would you right now just say, Jesus, I want you. That's it. It's not some elaborate long prayer or anything like that. Just let him know that you want him. Let him know that you want his help. If you're having that conversation right now with God, would you mind just letting me know? Would you mind just nodding your head or raising a hand? Let me know that you're telling Jesus that you want his help. Yeah. Awesome. You see, God is so good. God loves us. He loves you. So what we're going to do next in our service is a little bit different. Maybe you came in and you're wondering what the pillows were all about up front. You see, I want us to make the most of this moment right now with God. Just as that man had a very special moment, this interaction with Jesus that was unlike anything else he'd never ever experienced in his life. I want us to make the most of right now. So what's going to happen next in our service is the worship team is going to lead us in another song. And if you maybe said, God, I want your help, or if you're maybe in just a place where you need to have a good conversation with God, I encourage you, make the most of it. These are kind of like small little moments. And what's pretty cool about these pillows is they're not mats like what the man was laying on, but there's still something that we can come and we can kneel at, and we can have a really great one-on-one conversation with Jesus. So I'm going to come up front during this song, and I'm going to pray. And I'd love for you to join me. Let's pray.
Thank you once again for watching this message. I hope you heard God speak to your heart and that it impacted your soul. I encourage you to take a moment and share it with a friend. Also, if you have anything you need to ask us, I encourage you to reach out to us through our contact form on our website. Our next preview service is on September 9th at Berkeley Middle School at 11 o'clock. I really hope that you can join us. We also have our grand opening coming up on September 23rd at Berkeley Middle School at 11 o'clock. I really hope you can be there for that as well. I hope you take care, have a great rest of your day, and God bless.